Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why some words just stick in your head while others disappear the moment you hear them? Well, this new study dives deep into exactly that, exploring what makes words memorable. It's something scientists have been trying to pin down for a while. For a long time, they thought it was just about the word itself, like some words are just naturally easier to remember all by themselves. But this research asks a really interesting question: what if it is not just about the word, but also about how we use that word when we're trying to remember something else? This is where the study gets super cool. They used a special type of memory test called cued recall. Imagine you learn a bunch of word pairs. Later, you are given one word from a pair and asked to remember the other. The tricky part here is that any word could be the one you are given, that is the cue, or the one you have to remember, that is the target. So, each word plays two different roles. The scientists found something pretty remarkable. When a word was used as a cue, meaning it helped someone start remembering something, its memorability was much more consistent across many different people. It was like everyone's brain, no matter who they were, tended to remember how to use that word as a starting point in a similar way. But when a word was the target, the thing you had to actually recall, its memorability was less consistent. People remembered those words differently. So, what makes a word a good cue? The study suggests it's related to things like how easily you can recognize the word or just remember it on its own. These are sort of bigger picture memory things. But when it came to recalling a word as a target, it was the opposite. It seemed more personal, less predictable by simple things like how long the word was or how it was spelled. This means that the process of starting a memory search with a cue is more similar for everyone, while the process of actually pulling a specific memory out as a target is more individual. To figure out why this happens, the researchers looked at many different features of the words themselves. They checked things like how concrete a word is, how often it is used, how complex its sounds are, and even its connections in a giant mental dictionary. They wanted to see which of these features mattered more when a word was a cue versus when it was a target. They found that things like how concrete a word is or how often it is used were really important for making a word a good cue. If a word is easy to picture or very common, it is good at kicking off a memory search. Also, words with fewer meanings, meaning they're less ambiguous, were better cues. Think about it, a more specific word is easier to use to point to something specific. But for words you have to remember, it was different. These words were easier to recall if they had lots of connections to other words, like a rich web of associations. This makes sense because if many other words point to this one, it is easier to access when you are searching for it. Also, how complex the word is made up of smaller parts was important for recall. Now, here is where it gets really interesting and ties back to that idea of shared structure. When they looked at words grouped into broader categories like animals or food, the memorability for cues and targets started to look very similar again. This suggests that there are bigger, more stable patterns in how we remember things at a category level. So, while individual words might behave differently depending on whether they're a cue or a target, the overall idea of a category like fruit has a fairly consistent memorability pattern no matter how you are using words from that category in a memory task. It's like the category itself provides a strong, stable foundation. So, what does all this mean for us? Memorability isn't just about a word being easy or hard on its own. It is more like a dance between the word itself, its place in our mental dictionary, and how we're actually using it in a specific memory task. This study hints that using a word to start a memory search is a more shared, predictable skill across people. Your brain has a pretty consistent way of using clear, common words to point to a memory. But actually finding that specific memory, the target, is more like a personal treasure hunt. It depends more on your unique mental connections and how your brain has organized that particular piece of information. The features that make a word good at kicking off a search, like concreteness and frequency, are different from the features that make it easy to actually recall, like having many incoming associations. And that category effect is super important. It shows that while the details might change based on the word's role, the big picture categories give us a consistent memory signal. It supports the idea that our memories are organized hierarchically, with broad categories providing a stable backbone. This is a pretty neat way of looking at memory. It's not just about what's in your head, but also about how you are actually using what is in your head. Memorability is less of a fixed trait of a word and more of a dynamic outcome of brain processes. Of course, no study is perfect. This one used a specific type of memory test, cued recall. Future research could look at other memory tasks like free recall or recognition to see if these patterns hold up. Also, they used a specific specific set of words, so more research with a wider range of words could confirm these findings. In the end, this research tells us that memorable words aren't just inherently memorable, their memorability is shaped by their own features, how they fit into the bigger picture of semantic categories, and crucially, how we're using them. It's a reminder that our memory is a dynamic, interactive system. What do you all think about this? Does it explain why some things you learn stick better than others? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you found it interesting and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more breakthroughs in understanding the amazing human mind. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.